Malky, good to speak to you. Obviously, the transfer window is now closed. What's your thoughts on how the summer window's gone?
It's certainly been hectic, Adam, and I think overall we've got to be really pleased with the amount of business that's been done. I think so far there's 11 players have come into the club. I believe there's 17 have left the club. So there's an awful lot of business being done in the last 3 months. Some of that are development loans, some are exit loans, some are some of the first team players leaving on permanent, some leaving on loans, and then players coming into the club on loan and players coming in permanently. So I think there's maybe 30 odd transactions have happened in 90 days, and it's actually quite a lot that has gone into it. When you think of tonight, for example, we're sitting here at 11:30 on Friday night, and we've got our coaching team here, we've got our recruitment team here, our chief executive, our media team, our player liaison, and our medical team. So other than the players, it feels like a normal day, except it's 11 o'clock at night right now.
As you mentioned there's been quite a turnover or evolution in the playing squad. Is that something that you kind of expected when you came in on the 1st of June?
It's something that Ian and Ben sat down with me and we spoke about. Obviously I knew the squad from playing against them. So we looked at the squad, we looked at the development squad, and we quickly, by talking to David as well, we looked at the path that we kind of tried to map out for most of the players, for players that were in contract, ones that are leaving contract, ones that are probably starting a new journey. And you can plan for it, but you can never actually think that's exactly what's going to happen. Players got to want to go somewhere. A club has got to want to come and take the player. We've got to try and obviously go and hunt down players and see that they want to come. I think the list that you start with on day one is never what actually ends up in the building for whatever reason. Players come and go. People pop up that you didn't think were going to, that you then have a go at, try and find. So an awful lot of planning got into it, but at the same time, you're right, it's got to evolve. The club has got to evolve on the field, and that playing squad has got to continue to grow and challenge each other and make sure that we bring the best squad in possible into Hibs. There'll be people coming out of contract in a year's time. There's a lot coming out of contract in a year's time, and there weren't many this summer, so that kind of makes things slightly more difficult in terms of the initially what the squad's going to look like. But as I said, we've had a window here where we brought 11 players into the football club. Now, I don't really want to be doing that every year, to be honest with you. I want to get to a point where, as the windows go by, we're really only adding 1 or 2 players to the squad. But I think at the moment it's important that there was an imbalance in the squad, and it's something that I believe that over time we've got to make sure that becomes a much more rounded group of players, and there's a reason that you could see that every player is in the building and what their status in the squad actually is.
Obviously today's deadline day, like you said, we're sat here late on into Friday evening. Deadline day always feels busy, hectic. It's probably the part that the media play as well in terms of creating that narrative. Obviously we got some players in, some players out, some people that we missed out on as well. Just tell us how deadline day went from your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there was plenty of business done beforehand. We were coming into today looking to add 2, maybe 3 players to the group, and it took all day, to be honest with you, for that to happen again for various reasons. And there was other ones that came up, and there was a couple that were talked about leaving the club, and Jair has left the club today and gone down to Motherwell. But in terms of ins, we've managed to get a couple in, and there was always the one that we were looking at and involved in, actually been involved in bidding for, that we knew was going to either go right to the wire, and there was a chance that we'd certainly be in for him, for Luke McCowan, but always in the opportunity that we may not get that one.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. And I think one thing as well that you've You've been really clear on during this transfer window is the type of people that you've wanted to bring to the football club. Just give us a bit of an insight into what you've been looking for when you're creating that list to take to David Gray on the types of people that you want to bring here.
Well, I think recruitment's, a large part of recruitment is actually about personality and character, and actually the type of people you want to bring into your football club. That to do with staff as well, and it's all evolves around the culture and where people can lead, and we certainly need some leaders in the group, and myself and David Marshall and the recruitment team kind of mapped out that when we were going to be bringing players in or bringing players to David, the ones we were going to bring were going to be well researched in terms of our phone calls to other clubs, in terms of staff, to players that have played with them, to coaches that have coached them, to guys we know that know them. And quite quickly you get a picture of someone, you can build a picture of someone when people work with them every day, and a phone call to someone saying, yeah, absolutely, take him all day long, he's a terrific guy, good player, but a better guy. And conversely, sometimes it's not sure about that guy, and that's the ones that you then steer clear of, because that's only going to bring problems into the building. Now what we've got to do is make sure that we bring as many good characters and good personalities into the football club, and if you do that over time, clearly they've got to have a footballing reason for being here, but if you're bringing good people into the building, it makes a big difference in terms of eventually what that squad starts to look like, and that's how you build leaders, it's how you build teams of people that are then going to go and challenge for successfully at the top end of the table. This is a well-trodden path, and we've got to make sure that the people that are going to challenge for a first team strip at Hibs actually deserves to be here, picks up the challenge, and has a humility about them to say that they want to be part of a team, they want to work for each other, they want to work for our football club and our fans. And if we get that right, we've got a much better chance of success in a sustained way.
Give us an insight then in terms of how the transfer process has worked between yourself and David Gray and the wider football club.
Sure. Well, I think it's got to start with a structure, and you have to have a structure, and any good recruitment at football clubs have got a structure in terms of people actually watching players over a period, people collating data, people going live to see players over a period of time, feedback coming from trusted sources, that can be agents, that can be coaches, that can be ex-players, all of the above that go into the kind of the pot, and then there is targets, areas the manager has to give us a profile. So I'll sit down with David and he will give me a kind of map out, a profile of what he would like to see in a centre back, for example, what he would like to see a winger do, so that we build up a profile of each position. And then it's up to our staff to go and find 3 or 4 players in that area that can actually then be fit into that profile, be viable financially for the football club, have the right character, and be someone that we think we could actually achieve. At that point, then normally what we would do is make sure that we would go obviously during the season and actually watch them. It's much more difficult this last 3 months. It's a summer window. We've come in right into the middle of it, and it's probably a bit more whirlwind. But at the same time, I've made sure that none of what we've done is knee-jerk, and none of what we've done is off the cuff and just kind of done in a day. There has to be homework and research, and I think if you do that, it pays off in the longer term with the people you actually bring in. It's easy to go out and sign a number of players in a couple of days, but actually, you repent at your leisure, and all of a sudden you've got players in the building that maybe over a period of time aren't quite as good for the football club. And that's maybe something that's certainly happened here in the past, in terms of maybe players that have come in and been in the wrong movie, for example, so to speak. So I think that's something that we do. There's discussions constantly. I think the biggest thing I've seen since I've come in is which I've wanted to implement and actually enjoyed the fact that other people want, that is the transparency and the communication aspect to it. Ian Gordon has financially been incredible for the football club over a period of time. I've seen that now. I've been at board meetings and I've sat with him, and I've looked at the books here, and I've seen the amount of money that the Gordon family has ploughed into the football club over a period of years, and backed managers massively. That's one thing I would say to you right now. Every manager's been backed here, and what I would like to think that at the moment that Ian is massively invested in the club, wants everyone to do well. Is super keen in terms of the football at this football club, and absolutely respects the people that are in the posts to allow them to go and do their job. But we talk every day. And then Ben obviously is involved in terms of the going out and doing the negotiations. Once we target and we realise, myself and the recruitment team and David say, yeah, that's one that we think would do well for the football club. And then Ben's tasked, to go and we get the parameters right, and then it's up to Ben to go and get the deal done. But I think that transparency and the communication aspect is the one thing that I've found refreshing. Everyone is able to have an opinion, but at the end of the day, it's the football area that rightly judges whether the player actually comes in or not, if the finances are available.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier on that the squad is slightly imbalanced. Certainly was at the start. Do you think that's the biggest thing that's kind of changed this summer then? Obviously the squad is still quite heavy and quite bloated, some would say. Do you think now with you in place in your role, the recruitment strategy has changed almost? And whilst you are still recruiting for a manager, it's almost like a club first mentality rather than essentially giving a manager exactly what he wants.
Absolutely, it's got to be something that actually that there's a reason over a period of time why this player is brought to the football club. Now that's not to say that the head coach absolutely has to be involved and has to be aligned and want to work with that player. But what we want to get to a point is that over a period of time we do enough work on, let's say, 5 wingers that financially are viable for the football club. Holistically, they're there. Character-wise, they're there, and we've got a chance of getting. And then they would be given over to the manager, and let's put them in order, and let's see if we can get one for you. So we've got to make sure that there's a reasoning behind every player that comes in here. There are some players in here that are coming to the end of their journey at the football club, and that's okay because every player evolves, but every player has their own journey in their career. And for some, it's starting to get to the end of their journey here, and that's also been transparent. I've had conversations with a lot of players so far in terms of where we think they are at the football club, and there should be no embarrassment to that. It should be a very honest, frank conversation, and it allows players to also plan and to look at their future and talk to their advisors and say, okay, well, maybe things are changing at the football club for me here, and we've got to think about what's going on elsewhere. Now, some decide they don't want to do that, and they want to stay. And there's a couple where opportunities have come up this summer for them to go out, both on loan and also permanently. A few decide, I really want to do that because I want to play football, and some don't, and that's okay. There's nothing we can do about that. They sign contracts here, and they should be allowed to honour those contracts. Whether they're going to be involved in the first team or not is another matter, and that then can affect their career going forward because you've got to play for teams to want you. You've got to have a body of work. So that's part of the job of the strategy of the technical director, to the sporting director, to actually go and make sure that squad over a period becomes more balanced, and that's where we'll get to. You find managers who are in post for a number of years, teams who have kind of kept a structure together for a number of time, a period of time, eventually over a period of windows gets to the point where there is only 1 or 2 players coming in every transfer window because there is a balance to the squad, and there are periods where players are in contract for a number of years, and there's a reasoning as to why they're here. They're growing as players, and eventually you will decide then to either sell on for a profit or they stay at the club for a number of years. So that's something that obviously then I have to make sure that we report to the board about that as part of the duty, part of my job, to make sure that over a period of time the business actually runs properly at the football club as well.
Whilst we're talking about players potentially departing, it would be remiss of me not to mention or ask you about the free agency market, because that obviously is still open, open to us. Do you think there could still be some movement within that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the free agents are, I think, becoming more and more prevalent every year, because there are people finding themselves out of work. Not just in September, I think you'll find some end up in October, November still out of work that probably they will raise eyebrows as to what their career used to be, but for whatever reason they are still out of a job. And it's one that we will look at in the next week or two as well, to see who's still out there, whether there's anything that we want to just add. But it would have to be right for the club. It's got to be right. It's not we're not going to just bring someone in just to top up their pension. We've got to make sure that the person that comes in absolutely makes a difference to our football club on the pitch. So that, again, that's the important part of our squad. Every player in our squad, there has to be a reasoning behind, we think, why they're here. And every time someone pulls on a Hib strip, there's a reason they should be pulling on a Hib strip, and they should be deserved to pull on the Hib strip. It's something that I feel passionate about, in terms of making sure that everyone here is accountable. We are all accountable. So when they pull on the jersey, they're there to play for it.
I realise it's getting late, so I won't keep you too much longer, but we spoke a lot about the transfer window. Obviously, you came in on the 1st of June, straight in the midst of the transfer window, trying to bring players in and players leaving as well. Obviously, now that's closed. We've mentioned the free agency market. As a sporting director, what is next on your list to do? And is there a lot to do in terms of football strategy, looking at the culture of HTC, the running of HTC, albeit you've obviously been in the training ground for quite a few months now, but obviously the transfer window has been that main focus.
Yeah, I've been here for, I think, 90 days now. So the first 3 months, certainly the recruitment aspect of helping David and the team to build a squad and to change the squad around has been the main priority. But it's not my only priority. I've got to make sure that over the next period that our operations team, who run the training ground and who are responsible for the administration of each team, the men's team, the development team, the women's team, the academy, that they run properly, that they've got a way of working that I think that we have to do to make sure that things run properly at the football club. Our performance department, which is our sports scientists and our medical people and our physios, that again, that we have best practice in that area going forward, so that again they're there for the health of the players. We've got to make sure that our academy continues to flourish and improve and evolve, so that all the youngsters that we want to attract to our football club through Edinburgh and beyond are the next versions of the players that are going to actually come through to play in the first team, and people desperately want to come to Hibs Academy and be proud to be part of Hibs Academy. In terms of that, we've got to make sure that we're as close to the SFA Performance School at Broughton High as we can, because again that's another great asset for the football club and use for the football club with the academy. Also in terms of our women's team, making sure that continues to progress, and speak to Grant, the manager, and be around that, and make sure that we have a real positivity as far as young girls coming through the football club as well. You've touched on it as well in terms of the training centre, making sure that the facilities here are as good as they can be, that the infrastructure improves, that the building doesn't become tired, and we make sure it's a place that we're proud to work. We brought players over the last 3 months, great bringing them to Edinburgh, fantastic. also bringing them down to the stadium and walking them through a fabulous stadium, and then being proud to bring them up to the training ground again, where Ian's invested heavily over the last few months just in terms of making sure that this place has become somewhere we're proud to be. So all of these areas are, and then I suppose you add in the fact that the recruitment now is we are starting again for the January window, and where we're going to try and target players in that area there and beyond. So yeah, there's plenty of areas to actually be involved in, but obviously the football area, the men's and women's teams, the performance area, the academy, the recruitment and the operations are key to the football club running properly. But what I would say is there's a lot of good people here, and certainly the heads of departments that look after these areas are really people that care deeply about the football club. And once we get a way of working, as far as that's concerned, it's going to continue to improve.
Absolutely. Well, Malky, I'll let you go and get some sleep, and thank you for speaking to us.
Thanks, a pleasure, Adam.